George, I'm going to say something that I don't know whether it's correct, but it was told to me. Mozart should be sung by big voices.
Yes, I think that's
with a mezzo forte and a piano.
Yes, I think that's true.
But it cannot be sung by little voices. Why are Verdi roles and Bellini roles so difficult? Because they are actually big voices. You said what I mean by big voices, intense voices, power of expression, of colors, and of melodic line. Traviata has that power.
Very much
She
so.
must. And in fact, there are certain moments only where she sings frankly out loud, but all the rest is in the mezzo forte and piano. And it is, in Verdi, mostly necessary. In Trovatore, Leonora never really sings all the time like that loud.
No, the odd moment.
It is
the
always it is an instrument that is never pushed too far. And mainly, the better the musician you become, the less you should push it to your advantage. In other words, for an easy applause. In the beginning of your career, you can't get away with what you want, so you have to give the public a little bit of its desire. In other words, a very long held note and one of those things. But later, with the years, you tend to underact and underplay these things.
Traviata is one of those operas where one can approach it in all sorts of different ways from the point of view of production, set it in different periods. Do you find that these affect the character enormously, or not too much? Does the character remain fairly constant in the different?
The character could remain fairly constant, but of course if you, shall we say, use costumes of a certain period that are very pompous, like 1870, 1870 or 60, it is rather pompous, those big skirts. I naturally prefer, of course, the original period, which is 1840, approximately.
8 or 9 or something, yes.
Yes. And so it's a small crinoline. It's not, doesn't take much place. She's easier to move in, and the whole personaggio is less pompous, because she actually, according to the book, also was playful, merry, a gay, rather unhappy gay person.
Callas thinks, as I admit I do, that Verdi conceived the prelude to La Traviata as the start of a flashback, the dying Violetta remembering the happy days of her youth, and she persuaded one conductor and producer to do it her way.
It was a flashback, so the music of Verdi, yes.
Was it from right from the prelude?
If you listen to the prelude and
yes.
the fourth act
prelude,
the overture and the prelude, it is really the same in another key.
Certainly.
So in other words, it gives us the impression that it is always the mind that, in other words, she's on her deathbed and thinks back to her 3 crucial moments: before she met Alfredo, rather when she met him, when she had to give him up, and at the 3rd act when, of course, tragedy burst upon her. So it is her spirit thinking back, and she's still waiting. In fact, in the novel, she never saw him come back.
I had forgotten that.
She never saw him come back. He found her dead. He had to, in fact, unbury her, which was very gruesome in the book, but it's very impressive. In the opera, of course, he manages to come back, and she dies in his arms, which is very logical and nice. But in the book, it's not that way. So I have naturally been happy, and I have found through Luchino Visconti's production that the less I move, the better it was. I said that before, because it gives also more vocal expression, and more intensity, and more pureness of style.
It was very remarkable. But it had remarkable things like making the actual atmosphere of the party in the first act easier to create. I remember you going around from table to table.
It was hard work.
Small tables, hard work, but it made an atmosphere
yes.
that was
Because she really wasn't
logical and
pompous. She
believable.
was very,
Just that.
very, very joking and having
Yes.
a good time and was dying for this eagerness of gaiety.
Yes, yes.
Saying
yes.
silly jokes and nasty jokes, in
Yes.
fact.
Yes.
That was very... but I usually managed to keep that during the others.
Certainly at
because, of
Covent
course,
Garden you kept some of that
Yes.
gaiety, I remember. a
And
lot
what
of
I
it.
kept was the dying at the end, dying before she hit the floor. In fact, she never did hit the floor. And that I learned from
Yes,
Visconti.
yes, yes.
Dying on the last phrase, believing that she was
Yes.
really coming to life again
Yes,
and was,
yes.
which is typical of that illness,
Yes.
and managing to freeze into death just on the phrase.
Going back a couple of acts from the last act, one of the things that was tremendously noticeable, one of the very many details when you last did it in London in 1958, I think,
Yes.
was in the great scene with Germont, with the father of Alfredo, when you make this great act of renunciation of your newly found lover, and the section beginning Di te alla giovine, si bella e pura, and you had a comma, just a perceptible comma before the word pura.
That
So
I